Hello, welcome to my third educational topic for Emily Swan's Foundations of American Education class. Today I decided to do some research on the government side of our Foundations of Education, and I was spurred to do this because I started seeing some articles on the internet about a woman named Betsy DeVos, who is the the Secretary for Education of the United States. And a lot of these articles that I was finding were really negative. A lot of them had said that there were lawmakers who were calling for her to step down out of the position and that she was trying to get rid of the Special Olympics. And that's what spurred my curiosity. So I also feel like I've learned a lot from this class about understanding how our education system works and what role the government really does play in it. And I didn't really understand what the Secretary of State was or who she was in particular and what her platforms were. So that's what I decided to research for this topic. So what I found out is that Betsy DeVos was voted in on February 7th, 2017 under the Trump administration. She is the first, according to the Misdirection of Betsy DeVos by Joanne Barkin, she is the first Secretary of State with no experience in public education, and that includes growing up. She did not go to public schools. She is the first billionaire political funder whose close-knit family had contributed to 23 of the senators who would be voting on her nomination, and the first candidate for a cabinet post in U.S. history to have so little support that they needed the vice president's vote to break the 50-50 tie and secure her position. She runs on a platform and has a strong belief in privatizing education. According to the New York Times article, dismissal voucher results surprise researchers as DeVos era begins. And it states that she is committed to making school vouchers and other market-oriented policies the center of education reform. This is all about the money. What a voucher is where they take the taxpayers' dollars that are supposed to be going to public education and they give it to students to be able to attend private schools. So they pay the private schools' tuition for students. And they frame this in a way to make it like they're opening up a good education system to people who normally wouldn't be able to have it. So in other words, and this is according to the Misdirection article, it says that they've started substituting the word voucher for the word choice. So it's really easy to say all parents should be able to choose the school that's best for their children. Or why shouldn't low-income parents have a choice of schools just the way wealthier parents do? And that's what the platform of the vouchers supports. And it works because 70% of Americans who were polled supported the concept of school choice, but 50% did not support school vouchers. It's exactly the same thing. It's all about the phrasing of it. So basically, it's implementing new policies for the government to have control over the money and give it to privatized institutions, which really promotes entrepreneurs to make money in public education through the profits that should be going to the students in public education. So, and also Trump supports this. The other really kind of staggering thing is Trump reiterated in his last talk on education, the only major K through 12 proposal he has is to redirect 20 billion federal funds to state-run block grants for subsidizing school choice for low-income students. So, first of all, we have the aspect of taking, taxpayers' dollars away from public education and giving it to private entities, which also promotes kind of what I think some of the problems are with charter schools, where you're giving money to private entrepreneurs and private people who are going to make money from this privatization. But the most interesting thing that I found was from the New York Times article, Dismissal Voucher Results Surprise Researchers. They followed 3 research programs, and I think there are more even out today, because this was actually published in 2017, that compared the students going to public school to the students who received vouchers going to private school. And I'm just going to tell you about one of the researchers, what they found, because it supports everything that they found. They looked at Louisiana's voucher program. Students in the program were predominantly Black and from low-income families, and they came from public schools that had received poor ratings from the State Department of Education based on test scores. For private schools receiving more applicants than they could enroll, the law required that they admit students on a lottery, which allowed researchers to compare lottery winners to those who stayed in public schools. They found a large negative result in both reading and math for those who attended private school. Public elementary students who started at the 50th percentile in math, then used a voucher to transfer to a private school, dropped to the 26th percentile in a single year. There are probably a million reasons why this happened. I can only imagine that public schools don't have to use core standards. They don't answer to anybody. They're not in a school board, and they don't provide necessarily a better education. So this is really a poor decision in a lot of ways. Luckily, DeVos doesn't have control over everything, and the federal government is very separated from what state governments do. And that was what was kind of, I know we've talked about that in our class, but it was really comforting to me as a future educator that the federal government doesn't have ultimate power. They do have a lot of money, but they don't have a lot of the decision-making power. So that led me to look at what Utah's education system looks like. And it may sound silly, but I was like, well, wait, is there a Secretary of Education just for Utah? And what I've discovered is that there is not. That at the state level, it's a board of education. And in Utah, we have 15 districts, each district with its own board member that is an elected official. The district that I live in, the board member, it's District 10, and our board member is Sean Newell. Now, he is not an educator, but he's a civil rights activist. He's an African American. He's vice president of the Salt Lake NAACP. He's the commissioner of the governor's Martin Luther King Jr. Human Rights Commission. He heads the Utah Multicultural Civic Council, and he's a longtime businessman, and he is an educational activist. And I did some research on the other board members that support Utah, and some of them are educators, some of them are activists, but all of them were elected officials and have some pretty strong credentials. And nobody has ultimate power. The board has to vote. And so after looking at all of that and the situation that we're in today, I can't help the situation that we're in with DeVos, where I for sure don't support her platform, and I think that her having the power that she does is scary. However, her power is limited. And so the way that for all of its flaws, I really think at this point, the way that the education system in America is set up is a good one. I think it's got some good checks and balances. Obviously, if we've got a good public education system where we're meeting standards in a public forum more frequently and easier than in a private forum. And I do believe that everybody needs to have choice in school, but DeVos wants to take the choice away by getting rid of public education and privatizing all of it. That's like her ultimate goal, which I do not, that's not choice. That's just shifting it to a system that works for her. So that is everything I learned about DeVos and about the way that federal and state government works. And I thought it was an awesome topic, and hope you enjoyed it.